Introduction to Evolution Part 2. Well, I accepted what I was taught, and this included the theory of evolution. By the time I became a teacher, I absolutely knew that the theory was backed up by science. I assumed that all science was flawless, and it seemed obvious that evolution was science. But that changed. I got a hold of a small little book that rocked my world, by the interesting name From Good to You by Way of the Zoo, by an engineer named Harold Hill. Now, this book explained why evolution could not be true scientifically. Now, never had I read information like this. I could not believe it. No one had ever told me these facts, and I had to know more. I began researching the subject. I spent hundreds of hours trying to learn the truth about evolution. I was extremely interested in more information. And I was astonished. I discovered literally dozens of scientific facts that refuted evolution. In fact, it seemed that everything I ran into contradicted the theory. Now, in a former video, I mentioned that change has nothing to do with evolution. That is, as the word is used in the theory of evolution. No real evolution, referred to as macroevolution, has occurred until there has been a complete change from one kind of an animal or a creature, an organism, into another. For example, if a dog had evolved into a horse, if that was the path of that evolution had taken, that would be evolution. But that kind of change will be the only thing that will be referred to as evolution. Anything less, or at least proof that it is taking place, has nothing to do with true evolution in the sense that we're using it in the theory of evolution. Change in appearance does not indicate evolution. A change in color, size, beak size, length of legs, and even looks does not mean evolution has taken place. Now, it would be easy to understand why Charles Darwin might have thought that changes in one kind of a creature, if carried far enough, would eventually change into another kind of a creature. Their understanding of life was extremely limited at that time. Today, however, with the vast amounts of knowledge of life, this has all changed. The scientific discoveries over the last 1.5 centuries has provided enormous amounts of information that show why Darwin's ideas are no longer valid. Now let's look at one of the first so-called facts that we were told about evolution. Quote, "The fossil record shows the so-called missing organisms between each life form and the ones they evolved from. These show the steps of evolution." But what are the scientific facts? If evolution were true, then there would be millions of fossils that show these steps of evolution. But before we look at the evidence, let's see what a fossil consists of. Fossils are made up of minerals that have replaced the original material, that is, the creature or organism that was buried in the ground. These fossils are usually made of stone, that is, the minerals that have replaced the organism. Nearly all fossils are found in rocks or layers of earth formed by water, and these are called sedimentary rock. Fossils show us what a creature looked like in the past, even if they are extinct today. So they'll still have the same forms, which shows us what they looked like, even though it's no longer the original material. When Charles Darwin introduced his theory to the public, he admitted that the weakness of his theory was the fact that the fossil record did not produce the evidence that was needed to make the theory possible. The in-between, or the intermediate fossils, were not found during his day. But he was confident, however, that an abundance of these intermediate fossils, that is, those in-between fossils, would be discovered soon. So if, for instance, if cats had evolved into dogs, for instance, an intermediate fossil might be a dat or a cog. We have been told for decades that these types of fossils exist, that they show the paths of evolution. Now, you might have seen a series of horses, seashells, a cow-like creature, to a whale, or a combination of apes and humans that show the path of evolution in these specific creatures. Now, for those that have seen the many fossils that showed these so-called in-between stages of evolution, none of these fossils really exist. That is, none have ever been verified. Not even one. Now, these fossils have simply never been found. Without these in-between fossils, there is no evidence whatsoever that evolution ever occurred. Even some of the top evolutionists admit that the fossil record still does not support gradual evolution. Since Darwin himself admitted that his theory was wrong if those fossils did not show up in the decades to come, he would have a very tough time supporting his own theory today. But what about the evolution of the whale and other fossils that we have been told about? Well, the few fossils that were formerly used as proofs for evolution, such as the archaeopteryx, that is an extinct bird with claws, the duck-bill-platypus, the whale, and others, have been shown not to support evolution. And this is admitted by many knowledgeable evolutionists today, especially paleontologists, that is, those that study the fossils. The archaeopteryx, for example, was supposed to be a link between reptiles and birds. The fossil was found in the layer where birds already existed. So, if birds already existed, then the archaeopteryx could not be an intermediate fossil leading up to them. It was, in fact, an extinct bird with some unique characteristics. Nothing more. The duck-bill-platypus has nothing that it could have evolved from or into. The differences between this creature and all others are just too great. The evolution from a cow-like creature to a whale is often seen in books today as an example of evolution with the intermediate forms. Now, there are serious problems, however, with this whale evolution, not the least of which is the fact that even well-known magazines used what scientists refer to as fraudulent pictures to show the validity of this whale evolution idea. There are at least 3 fraudulent pictures, such as drawing the creatures as having fin-like legs instead of the legs it really possessed, or adding a whale tail to a creature to make it agree with the whale evolution idea. Also, key pieces of bone in these fossils are missing. These pieces that are missing are crucial to even hint that evolution took place. And the next thing is the fact that the time frame in these fossils from beginning to end is entirely too short, approximately 5 million years. This is just a fraction of the time that would be needed if evolution were going to take place from a cow-like creature to a whale, even according to many evolutionists. The fossils used to show the evolution of the whale seem to be fossils from various creatures with no relationship whatsoever to each other. These fossils are rarely used anymore by paleontologists as examples for evolution because they are aware of the problems with these so-called intermediate fossils. With billions of fossils being discovered in the last 1.5 centuries, there are no more verifiable intermediate fossils to support evolution than there were in Darwin's day. In other words, 0. Since no one can historically point to the evolutionary process, because no one was there when evolution was supposed to have occurred, and none is taking place at the present time, then the only possible evidence of evolution must be the indirect evidence, that is, the fossils. And the fossils that would help the theory have never been found. Dr. Mark Ridley, zoologist at Oxford, said it this way. He said, in any case, no real evolutionist uses the fossil record as evidence in favor of the theory of evolution, as opposed to special creation. Stephen Jay Gould, arguably the top spokesman for evolution at the end of the last century, said, the absence of fossil evidence for intermediate stages between major transitions in organic design, indeed our inability even in our imagination to construct functional intermediates in many cases, has been a persistent and nagging problem for gradualistic accounts of evolution. So up to this time, there's really been no, at least verifiable, evidence that evolution has ever taken place. Now, that doesn't mean that people haven't put certain fossils in order to make them look like evolution has taken place. But as far as being able to verify any true evolution, no fossil has ever been found to be able to do that. Thank you for watching this video, and for more information, go to evosecrets.com. Thank you.